Hi, this is Lamarr Townsend. I'm a psychic, an energy channeler, a tarot reader, and an astrologer. And I thank you for listening and watching. Well, if you're watching this most likely on YouTube. But if you're listening, I appreciate you for listening on my podcast. I'm Lamarr Townsend. Like I said, if you would like a personal reading from me, definitely check out my website, lamarrtownsendtarot.com. I am available for personal readings, and I would love to read for you. I do birth chart readings, all different types of psychic tarot readings, phone psychic tarot readings, email psychic tarot readings, video recorded psychic tarot readings that are sent to your email. I also do mediumship readings, past life readings. I also teach tarot classes, and I also do spell work, candle work, and all different types of stuff. So once again, definitely check out my website if you would be interested in those types of things. Once again, lamarrtownsendtarot.com, spelled just like my podcast name, my YouTube channel name, and my other platforms. Once again, lamarrtownsendtarot.com. Welcome to my first episode of my new segment on my podcast, Lamarr Townsend Tarot Podcast. And this episode is called Virgo Season. This weekly, might be weekly. I don't know. This might be weekly. This might be monthly. But whatever it is, this segment is called Retrograde Review, where I basically talk about things, from the past week or month, also future things coming, astrologically wise, planetary wise, spiritually wise, zodiac sign wise, but also maybe popular culture wise, which is typically what my podcast is even about. It's about astrology, psychic tarot reading, spirituality, and pop culture, and LGBTQ issues. I am a gay man, so my goal with this is to get more involved in my podcast. My podcast is actually doing quite well, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, I don't know, but for those of you who listen to my podcast, and I do know that a lot of you are listening because a lot of you have gotten personal readings from me, who have found me through my podcast and not my YouTube, which is my biggest platform, which I find amazing. And a lot of you comment and support and share, so I really appreciate it, and like and things like that. So if you're listening to my podcast right now, whatever platform you're listening on, whether you're listening on Breaker, Anchor, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, Apple Music, whatever you're listening to, or wherever you're listening to it, thank you so much for your support. And I really, really appreciate it so much. I do make money from my podcast. I also do make money from my YouTube. So, my podcast and my YouTube, and of course my Patreon, become a Patreon member. Also, check out my Vimeo, my podcast, obviously my YouTube, my Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I also have what am I missing? I have so many platforms now, I can't even remember. But just Google my name and everything will come up most likely. I also have a book, though, on Amazon, so check that out, too. But, I don't know, I just want to thank you all so much for your support with my podcast, and I actually cashed, it was an accident that how I cashed my first check from my podcast. It was actually quite a bit of money. I'd been saving it up for quite a couple months, and let's just say it wasn't that much. I mean, what I'm learning about podcasting is you can make just as much as you put into it. So I'm trying to put more into it. But it was a good amount of money. It was under $50. Let's just say that. But I accidentally cashed it out because I actually wanted to figure out the process of how to cash out the money from a podcast, and I accidentally pushed the button not expecting it to actually cash out my money, and it ended up cashing it out. I think the money went towards a bill or something like that, but anyways, it's just amazing to be able to make money from your art, period. And it's kind of funny how this ties into the topic today, which is Virgo season. Virgo season is, in astrology, symbolized by the maiden, and it is all about sowing seeds, harvesting seeds or plants and things like that have already grown. But, in doing that, you also plant seeds for the future to come. And it's interesting because Virgo season is around September, like late August, moving into September, which is, not quite the end of the year, but we're gearing towards the end of the year, setting our intentions for the new year. So, one of my intentions with the new year of 2022 is to focus a lot more on my podcast. But outside of that, I just want to focus more on my platforms outside of YouTube. I love YouTube. I will always focus on my YouTube and always post on my YouTube. But as I grow and evolve and I get older, I also see the value in other platforms outside of YouTube and expanding your reach. I actually talked about this in a podcast episode I did yesterday, maybe on my Patreon, where I did a recap of like the Aquarius full moon. I would definitely check that out. Become a Patreon member if you're not already one. I was very candid in that, but I talked about how I'm just entering a phase where I want to expand, and I like podcasting a lot. It's very fun. It's kind of low maintenance, but not really, because it's kind of the same as a video. Like, you have to have a topic. You have to have... It's like kind of like storytelling. It's kind of like storytelling in the sense that you have to like have a direction you want to take the audience. And, that's what builds trust, in your audience. That's what builds a connection with your audience. So, I don't know about you, but, 2021 has been a huge year of transformation. It is a year of the number 3, 2021. 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 1. Oh, wait, no, that actually doesn't break down to the number 3. Oh, my God, that breaks down to the number 5. 2 plus 2 plus 1 is 5. So it actually is the the number 5, so that is Mercury, communication, intellect, and the mind. And that could definitely relate to Virgo season because Virgos ruled by Mercury, but that relates to change in the form of Mercury rules your young childhood to young adult years. So what's actually happening in 2021 is a lot of us are breaking out of or are being faced with the need for change, or the reality of how much we've changed from our upbringing, because Mercury, once again, is our upbringing. It's our young childhood, from the moment that we're born up until, our probably mid to early 20s. For those of you who gone to college, it's typically when your Mercury stage ends, it's typically right around the time where you graduate college and you're thrust into the real world, and from that point forward, you've got to make your own loins and kind of come to certain realizations and conclusions about the world on your own time and experiences and things like that. And that's what 2021 kind of is for a lot of people. Is it's causing people to face the reality that maybe life, as in the way we or whoever was taught to believe growing up, is not the life that is reality anymore. We're in a different world, completely different world. And I think with us being in Virgo season now, I think it's a time to really kind of contemplate and do some deep thinking and some maybe even readjusting. I talked about this also on my podcast on Patreon, where I'm doing a lot of like rearranging in my home. I'm getting rid of old things. I'm finally cleaning out a lot of clutter in my home, and to me that signifies change that I am preparing for. I don't know exactly what the change is, but I know it's coming. And it's kind of like Virgo season, which is sowing the seeds. It's getting rid of the old, taking what's already been planted, aka the clutter that's already been planted in my home, and getting rid of, what no longer is serving me, and making space for new, but also rearranging things and opening up space in order to inspire me, to go towards new. So I don't know about you, but I'm, especially with this full moon in Aquarius that we're just coming off of, I'm just in a period of like change and transformation and really like hunkering down on the life that I want to manifest. And with, this tying into Virgo season, Virgo is in astrology the sixth house. And the sixth house is traditionally ruled by Mercury, like I was saying. So Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So if you're Virgo sun, moon rising, or something like that, know that you have a, Mercury influence. Me, for example, I'm a Virgo rising. So, but the sixth house, aka Virgo, aka Mercury, does rule your job, your work, your career. It also rules your health. It also rules your daily routine, your sense of self-improvement. All right, is Virgo season. Virgo is also being criticized and being critical, being judged and judging. All right. Virgo can be hoarding. All right. Virgo can be very methodical. Virgo will take in information, not maybe tell you much about them or about it, but it will take in a lot about you. So when it comes to Virgo, especially Virgo people in general, you got to be careful what you say about them, because they kind of are like Scorpios, where they bring so much out of you, because Virgo is like the natural therapist of the zodiac sign. I have a lot of friends who come to me, who trust me, and kind of like see me as like a therapist, in a lot of ways. And to be honest, one thing with me that I've come to a conclusion with, and it's really coming to a head during Virgo season. Virgo season becomes officially Virgo season around August 22nd or 23rd, by the way. So it is currently, I think, at the filming of this podcast episode, August 28th, 2:04 a.m. I know I never sleep. I stay up late, thank God for my job, that I've created for myself as a creator, right? Where, I can never sleep if I don't want to. Or I can sleep a lot if I want to, but for me, I never sleep. Anyways, going back to what I was saying, for Virgo season, it's a time of like I was saying, taking stock of what's around you. And, often what happens with Virgos or people with prominent Virgo energy is, Virgo people can be, or Virgo energy can be such a pillar for other people. Remember, it's like the natural therapist. Virgos are really good listeners. And I don't know, I never really took classes in therapy or sociology or psychology or anything like that, which I'm assuming ties into therapy in some way, although I could be wrong. I never took classes on therapy or anything like that, but I think what makes a good therapist is you have to be a good listener. And I think, what makes, an important trait of Virgos is that they're generally good listeners. They take in a lot of energy, but the thing with that is that it can become so exhausting, taking in so much energy, taking in so much of other people's problems and issues, but maybe not taking into account or focusing as much energy on your own problems or your own issues in your life. So I'm in a period in my life with this Virgo season where I'm really hunkering down and looking at my life and looking at what I want to fix and what I want to change. And part of that kind of deals with me maybe pulling back from certain things, certain people, and focusing my energy and efforts towards other things or other people. And that's the thing with Virgo, is that Virgo can be very focused, very skilled at being focused, detailed, all right, paying attention to the small details. So, Virgo season is it's a good time for self-improvement if you're looking to make, improvements within yourself or changes within yourself. So, like I was saying, I don't know about you, and I talked about this a lot in my my podcast on Patreon today. That was really fun. We also talked about feng shui and how I'm rearranging my home and changing around the feng shui of my home, which is also inspiring me in different ways. But I digress. I'm also in this phase in my life, speaking of self-improvement, where I'm really want to be healthy. And I've been actually doing a detox, which, by the way, if you want to do a detox and maybe, I don't know, you suffer from IBS, I am not sponsored by this company. Although, I mean, hey, why not? I mean, I would love to be sponsored by them, but I'm not. If you suffer from like IBS or constipation or anything like that, or just being backed up, being bloated, maybe even having like a fupa or something like that, you may want to look into magnesium oxide. I have to say that one of my friends, House of Stars, put me onto magnesium oxide, and I did a detox with it, and it completely like helped me so much. And I find one thing I've learned is that, and this all ties into Virgo season because Virgo is the sixth house, which is your health. And I believe Virgo rules the abdomen, which, going back to what I was saying, one thing I've learned is that the abdomen is so important. It's like, okay, we have our brain, which the brain is technically ruled by Aries, which is Mars, because the head is ruled by Aries and Mars. Although we could also say that there's a little bit of Mercury influence in there too, because, you know, Mercury does rule the mind, intellect, and things like that, right? So here we have, you know, Virgo season being tied up in that again. You know, so like Virgo has, you know, Mercury has some ties to the brain, but, you know, the stomach itself is kind of like a second brain too. Did you know that? And what's interesting is that the digestive system, you know, is also like very, very important in terms of the stomach and the colon and things like that, and detoxing your body and paying attention to your health. You know, like it's so important because it plays an important effect on your mood, the microbiome of your gut and stuff like that. So basically what magnesium oxide does is it clears out your gut. So I've been doing that for about a month, and it completely cleared out my gut. And I've noticed like a complete change in my mood. I've even like heard clients, like I had a reading with a client a couple of days ago, and at the end of the reading, she's been coming to me for a few years. She said, you sound happy. She asked me, you know, how am I doing? We kind of had like just a little, you know, chat at the end of the reading, and I genuinely told her, I was like, you know what, I'm actually doing good. Like I'm feeling good. I'm feeling, you know, really excited about the future. I can't complain. And, you know, she said, you know, I believe you. Like, you know, I can tell you sound happy. And that really, like, you know, like, made me, I was like, wow, like, okay, I am changing. You know, it's always very validating to hear other people legitimize or validate the changes that you see or feel within yourself. So, anyways, I say all that to say I'm doing a cleanse of my gut, and it's been helping with my weight loss. In cleansing my gut, I'm no longer craving certain foods, which my weakness is starch. So what I've been doing as well is cooking my own foods at home. And I've also been shopping a lot at the organic grocery store. Pretty soon they're probably going to know me by name at the organic grocery store, for goodness sakes. But I've just had a lot of fun with these kind of changes that I'm going through, and I feel like I'm preparing for something in terms of the future, and I don't know exactly what I'm preparing for, but I feel like I'm preparing for some sort of change. And, you know, if there's anything you want to change in terms of a listener during this, you know, during this time, Virgo season is a good time to enact change. Like I was saying, it's right at the cusp. We're right at the cusp of the new year. We're moving into the year of September 2021. We go into late September, then we get into Libra season, and then Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and then the new year. So Virgo season is a really, really good time to plant the seeds that you want to grow in the future. But also remember, Virgo season is also about watering and feeding the seeds that you planted. It's like you can't plant the seeds and abandon the seeds you planted. It's kind of like the energy of someone who like plants seeds in their garden or you know, on their windowsill, and they never look back. They never water the plants. They never repot the plant. They just expect it to grow, and there's no that's all they need to do is just plant the seeds, and then they come back 3 months later, 3 weeks later, and only to find the plant or the seeds that they planted dead, or having not grown at all, or, by the time they check it, they've died back and there's no signs of life. when you plant seeds during Virgo season or in general, you've got to grow them. You've got to keep at it. You know, that's one thing with Virgo is consistency. All right? And that's one thing that my spirit guides have been, helping me to focus on and address within my own life is being consistent. That goes back to, I don't want to say this diet that I'm on because I don't feel like I'm on a diet. Because, girl, sis, whoever's listening, bro, dude, if I want some McDonald's fries, honey, I'm going to get some McDonald's fries. And I'm not going to feel bad about it, okay? Because as much as I love making my own homemade fries, which, by the way, if you didn't know I can make homemade fries, definitely, if you want to see that, check out my TikTok because I actually posted a quick, recipe of how I do it on my TikTok, which is at Lamarr Townsend Tarot, I believe. I'm on TikTok. But also, I post a lot of the foods I make on my Instagram. But I'm actually also thinking about, doing, a cook with me or something like that, either on my Patreon or my Twitch or my YouTube. I don't know. If you'd be interested in that, let me know in the comment section below. I'm not sure how that would work on a podcast, but I'm pretty sure I could come up with some way of making it work or some idea of making it work. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just in this phase of change and transformation in my life, and I'm very excited of where everything is taking me and where I'm heading in my life, and I hope that you are also heading in the right direction, and feeling excited about where you're heading in your life. It's also kind of a stressful time, speaking of retrograde review, because we are also in this kind of vaccination or vaccinated versus unvaccinated era. And it's kind of scary, and I talked a little bit about this on my podcast episode on Patreon as well, but we've got that going on. Some of my favorite things that have happened this week, I don't know if any of you watch RuPaul's Drag Race, but Silky Nutmeg Ganache, one of my favorite drag queens. And if you don't know anything about drag culture, lip syncing is a thing where you basically perform and mouth the words of another artist's song, but the art in terms of the drag queen themselves or the drag persona themselves is that they become the music, they become the epitome of the song, or the dance, whatever it is they turn it into. So, anyway, Silky Nutmeg Ganache, if you don't know her, Silky Nutmeg Ganache is a drag queen on RuPaul's Drag Race. And I'm a gay man, I love RuPaul's Drag Race. Like, what can I say? And my favorite thing that she did, though, was Barbie Girl. She did a rendition of Barbie Girl. Definitely check that out. I actually did tip her. I sent her $18. 18 because it broke down to 9, and 369 are the numbers that Nikola Tesla associates with the codes of the universe. Which I'm going to talk about that one day. Nikola Tesla is a whole situation all on himself. Nikola Tesla literally needs his own episode. We're gonna do a whole episode on Nikola Tesla. Just let me get some notes down, some talking points, and we've got an episode on Nikola Tesla. But sorry for clearing my throat so much. I guess it's the allergies. I don't know, but let's also recap and go back to this retrograde, or not the retrograde, the full moon in Aquarius that we had on August 22nd. Did that not feel like a retrograde to you? Now, Aquarius is friends, acquaintances, social groups. It is technology, all right? It is unexpected change, so I could see how even in that there could be some retrograde elements or effects there. But my God, if the technology in my home wasn't going haywire, the day after the full moon or the day of the full moon up until today, or yesterday, where I was even having technical difficulties. Oh man, it was a crazy full moon. Even the one of the employees at the grocery stores or organic grocery stores that I go to was asking me about, so how did your full moon experience go? And I told her, I was like, it was actually kind of hectic, to be honest. It felt a little bit like a retrograde. And she was like, I'm glad I'm not the only one, because, yeah, kind of felt hectic too. She was talking about, I don't know about you, but people were like grumpy, and I was like, yeah, I felt that kind of too. So, reviewing the full moon in Aquarius. I mean, the full moon in Aquarius was intense, but I talked about this also in my podcast on Patreon. If you set any intentions for the full moon, which I hope you did, Aquarius is unexpected change, all right, and fast change too. So whatever intentions you set, be prepared for unexpected change or fast change, all right? Don't be surprised if some change happens down the line, all right? What are some other exciting things that happened? R. Kelly and Aaliyah, did you hear about that? So August 25th, 2021 was the anniversary of the passing of the singer Aaliyah, who passed away in a plane crash on August 25th, 2001. And it's now been, I guess, confirmed. I still want to say alleged, I guess, just because I don't know. You know how people are. But it's been kind of basically confirmed that Aaliyah was married, or they were married. R. Kelly and Aaliyah were married when Aaliyah was underage. Somehow they forged the paperwork, and if you want to learn more about that, I did a psychic reading, tarot reading on R. Kelly and the future of R. Kelly on my Patreon. So once again, if you want to check that out, patreon.com/Lamarr Townsend Tarot. I definitely would check that out. Speaking of Patreon, I did do a conversation maybe a couple weeks ago with Aaliyah. So I would check that out. I'm loving Patreon, by the way. I try to post every day on Patreon. I've been doing pretty good every day. I have quite a bit of content already posted on there. One of my favorite things that I've done recently is I did a conversation with Venus Aphrodite, which was really enlightening. I've also done a reading on ancient Africa on my Patreon. I've done a reading on ancient Greece. I've done a conversation with the Egyptian god Osiris about death. And if you don't know anything about Osiris is the Egyptian god of death. I even did a conversation which was really fun and really enlightening, and I enjoyed a lot. I did a conversation with Cleopatra about our past lives together in Egypt, ancient Egypt, and I won't spoil the details for you, but let's just say me and Cleopatra go way back. So I definitely would check that out too. And it's kind of funny because I wanted to name this segment of my podcast something Egyptian, but I just, for the concept, I couldn't find the right words, so I just kind of came up with, okay, if I can't go with anything Egyptian, I'm just going to go with something astrology or, spirituality related, so I came up with Retrograde Review, because a retrograde is basically something that seems to be moving backwards, so it's even though it's in the moment, Retrograde Review, this segment, and we're going to be talking a lot about what future events to come, there's going to be time where we're going to have to rewind and go backwards too, as well. So it's we're pulling in the past, the present, and the future, which all in itself ties in with astrology and spirituality, right? Because when you read tarot cards and, you do psychic readings, you're reading the past, the present, and the future. So I find Retrograde Review to be and of course I Googled, and did my research as well. And, I don't know, I love the name. So this is going to be the name of the segment, Retrograde Review. I don't know, maybe down the line we can have our own segment with Cleopatra, but I don't know, I absolutely love Cleopatra. You guys know that. I'm very devoted to Cleopatra, but I don't know. I think this is all I really want to talk about with Virgo season. We are entering Virgo season, and Virgo season is about health. So pay attention to your health, you guys. Like I said, I'm doing a detox. But it's also not just what you put in your body. It's also what you drink, the air quality in your home, or the air quality around you in general. It's also, one thing that also Spirit has been putting me on, you guys know I have a cat, Fonzie, who I love. It's also the health of your pets. One thing with Fonzie is that, I don't know if you have a cat, but with cats, it's kind of sometimes difficult for them to drink water, or to get them to drink water. So I have one water thing that I have for Fonzie that I keep in the living room. But then, of course, I have multiple altars around my home. And he has one altar of his that is his absolute favorite in my room. And maybe it's because it's near, I've moved it near the windowsill. And he likes to be on the windowsill and watch, what's going on outside during the day. But even before I moved the altar, he seemed to always love this altar. It's a Chango altar. And I don't know what it is with him and Chango, honey, and Saint Barbara, but he loves him some Chango and Saint Barbara, and Chango and Saint Barbara loves them some Fonzie. Anyways, if you don't know anything about altars, I did a class on that on my Patreon. Definitely check out my Patreon. I also did part of the video on YouTube, so it's probably somewhere on YouTube. I posted that recently, maybe within the last month or two, where leaving water on your altars is so important, because water is a conduit for spirit. Water is a conduit for trapping energy, releasing energy, connecting with spirit. I mean, it gives life. Water is necessary to life. I mean, water is so important. So I try to change the water on my altars quite frequently. So what my cat Fonzie will do is he will actually drink the water from my altar, my altar, my Chango altar and Saint Barbara altar. And it's just kind of like, oh my gosh, like, of course you don't want to feel like you're disrespecting the gods or the goddesses, but at the same time you have to trust spirit. And it's kind of like, okay, if my cat seems to be drawn, he also is drawn towards Alegua. I find Alegua and Chango and Saint Barbara and my dad are the main ones I see him kind of drawn to. But I trust him. I trust that my cat is super psychic, and I trust his instincts. Cats in general are very psychic. And so it's interesting being in tune with that energy and paying attention to that energy, because one thing with pets, and cats specifically, child, is that they will keep you consistent, which is Virgo. So now that I'm like noticing my cat drinking the water on my altars, it's like, okay, like I have to be consistent in changing the water on the altars, because number one, I want him to constantly be hydrated and drinking water, especially because it's summer, and I don't always keep the windows open, but I have the windows open sometimes because it's important to keep fresh air, kind of flowing in the home. But also when you have pets that are mainly indoors, you want to have the windows open so they can, get a sense of outside, and, so they're not so claustrophobic and stuff like that. So number two, I want him to stay hydrated, but number three, I don't want him drinking like dirty water. Like, if you are spiritual and you have altars, you know that if you don't change that water frequently, there can be some nasty stuff that collects in that water, okay? Now, how that happens, I don't know. I'm a big believer that, once again, spirits do trap negative energy and, things like that into water. So it could be that. I don't know what goes on with that water, honey, but, change the water on your altars frequently, okay? Period, point blank. So, I don't know. It's like Virgo season is all about details. So, but the one thing about Virgo is that Virgo is earth. It's grounded. So, it's very practical. It's like, it bases a lot on what it can see, what it can feel, what it can touch, what it can hypothesize and, make logic sense of and stuff like that. But I always say the spiritual realm doesn't always make sense. Hell, like when I do readings, for other people, and, when I even have my own spiritual situations happen, like a lot of things don't make sense for me. Oh my God, I have to tell you guys a story about Cleopatra in a second, but I don't want to get too off topic. But when it comes to Virgo, like Virgo is about consistency. Virgo is about detail. So of course you have to pay attention to the details of like the physical realm, but pay attention to the details of the spiritual realm. I always say spirit speaks in so many different ways. Spirit will speak to you through your animals. Animals, dogs, cats, ferrets, birds, whatever, animals you have in your home are very connected to spirit. And I always say spirit will speak to you through animals, wild or otherwise, honey. So, Cleopatra is a very funny queen, isn't she? So recently I had a friend over, and this friend, it was our first time hanging out, and we were like hanging out, drinking, talking, having a very eloquent, spiritual conversation. And I kind of got the sense that they're a little bit new into spirituality. I won't say their name or spill their tea. And they come from like more like, we talked about this. They come from more of a realm of chaos magic. I myself don't particularly come from a realm of chaos magic, but I am aware of chaos magic. But I don't know. I don't know how to describe exactly what type of magic. Like I would say I do. I do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Maybe I don't know. But what I found interesting is that this dude was like more tuned in than he thought, because we were in my room and like Cleopatra kept coming through so strongly. And she wanted to make her presence known with this guy and basically let him know, like, hey, I see you, I know who you are, respect our space, basically. Like that was Cleopatra with this guy. But like it was interesting because like it wasn't just me who felt it, it was him. And I actually had to speak out loud to Cleopatra, like, okay, Cleopatra, we respect you, we hear you, we acknowledge you, like he's okay, everything is okay. And when I spoke out loud, he would even acknowledge, okay, like I felt a change when you said that, like I think she like is okay with me. So I say that to say, like, in a lot of ways, your spirit guides, angels, ancestors, and protectors are protecting you in more ways than you think, and it's not always just you who can feel it. And one thing when it comes to that is, you know and we're getting to the closing of this episode, and before we close off this episode, I do want to play you all a new song that I recently debuted, which is called Raise Hell, that I produce, write, and master my own music. But going back to what I was saying, when it comes to Virgo season, Virgo is all about groundedness. And being methodical, being consistent in more ways than one. And that even comes into play with your ancestors, your spirit guides, your angels, your deities that you work with. Be consistent with them. Change the water on their altars frequently. Think about them often. Give them gifts. It doesn't have to be elaborate, gifts of gold and silver and, marble stone from Gilead. It doesn't have to be all that. Give them $1. Give them a flower, that you picked, while you were walking out, on the bike trail. Or just give it to someone you love, be consistent in changes you want to see within yourself, but also with changes you want to see in the world. Be a part of it all. If you want to see change, be a part of it. Whether you want to see it in yourself or others, you have to be the change that you want to see. And I think for me, that's what like Virgo season, this season in 2021 is teaching me. I have to be the change I want to see, whether this is change I want to see in my own life or outside of me, or both. And for me, it's kind of like both. So, I don't know, you guys. It's so intense. I love conversations like these. But Virgo season is one thing I'm like absolutely like crazy about is that we're almost at the end of 2021. Like literally, it's about to be September. And then we have September, October, November, December. 4 more months left of 2021. Another thing I found very interesting, for those of you who don't know, another deity that I'm very fond of and connected to and work with is Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was a Greek military commander, a Greek I mean, Alexander the Great did so many amazing things, but one thing that I found interesting about Alexander the Great through my own research and through his own just guiding me through his own with his own spirit is that he actually may have been a part of the LGBTQ community. If you've ever watched the Alexander movie, which I've only seen clips of, but it's with Colin Farrell, I think, and Angelina Jolie. Apparently, but even if you look up Alexander the Great and his history, apparently he was bisexual. And of course, in Greek, I did a reading on this on ancient Greece in my Patreon. Homosexuality and stuff like that was pretty common in ancient Greece. So, but what I found very empowering about that was that, like, this amazing man who conquered the world, almost conquered literally the whole world, Alexander the Great, who was revered in ancient Egypt and was connected to Cleopatra, who did all these amazing things, may have actually been a part of the LGBTQ community. And I think we need a whole episode on Alexander the Great. Okay, we need an episode on Nikola Tesla and Alexander the Great. I say all that to say, like, I don't know, and it's kind of weird because, like, I remember telling a friend about it, and I was like, I think Alexander the Great may have been gay. And I'm like singing it out loud. I think Alexander the Great may have been gay. I'm like singing it on the rooftops. And my one friend I told about it, she was kind of like, I mean, I guess he could have been. So I don't know. That was just kind of a bummer because it's just like, oh, okay, like I guess no one gets it, like how prominent this is, But I don't know. I found that pretty cool that he may have been a part of the LGBTQ community. For someone who was, seemingly so masculine and did so much in his life, So I found that very interesting and very memorable, but also empowering in some ways, a part of the LGBTQ community, because so often people. Oh, and one thing I found interesting, by the way, and I listened to a podcast episode on this. I wish I knew the channel. He may have actually been a bottom. Okay, so if you don't know what a bottom is, maybe we need to do an episode on this. If you don't know what a bottom is in gay culture, or in culture, sex culture in general, I guess at this point, is that the bottom in sex is typically the more receptive partner, the more submissive partner, I'll say. Alright? Whereas the top is the more dominant one. Alright? We have we have so many episodes that we could do that we need to put in the vault. But I don't know, I found that very interesting. And, like I was saying, going back to Virgo season, it's the small details that make up the big picture. So, I'm very appreciative of what Virgo season has brought me thus far. And I look forward to what Virgo season, what more it has to bring. So we're going to bring this episode to a close. Thank you all so much for listening and watching once again. And I'm going to end this episode by playing you a song once again that I wrote, produced, recorded myself. As you all know, or you may not know, I actually am an astrologer, a psychic, a tarot reader, a medium, an artist, and a musician. I do quite a lot of things, and I've been making music for quite a lot of years. I've been writing music for quite a lot of years. One of your, a lot of people on YouTube especially, my favorite song that I made so far is, the first one that was a really big hit was Unblock Me. Let's go back to the way things used to be. Drinking so much we forget all the memories. So that one's on iTunes. And then it became The Psychic with the Teeth. That's me. People love that song. Anyways, I'm always making new music. I'm always looking to expand, my knowledge of music and making music. So I made a new song, and I'm going to play it for you to end this episode of my podcast. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I hope you stick around. Give me a like, subscribe, follow, and here's my song, written and performed by me. It is called Raise Hell. Let's raise some hell tonight. I'm ready to party and feel alright. It's time to dance and have some fun. And make me feel like I'm number one. If I wanna win, I gotta do what's right. Gotta go within and see what's right. If I wanna win, I gotta do what's right. Gotta go within and see what's right. If I wanna party, it's just a party. 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 Gotta go within and see what's right. 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 Gotta go dance, 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 yeah. See these eyes, yeah, see these eyes, yeah, see these eyes, yeah, let's go party. See these eyes, yeah, see these eyes, yeah, see these eyes, yeah, let's go party. See these eyes, yeah, see these eyes, yeah, see these eyes, yeah, let's go party. See these eyes, yeah, see these eyes, yeah, see these eyes, yeah, let's go party. See these eyes, yeah, see these eyes, yeah, see these eyes, yeah, let's go party. See these eyes, yeah, see these eyes, yeah, see these eyes, yeah, let's go party. Thank you so much for listening and watching. This has been episode 1 of Retrograde Review. I hope you have a good day, good week, good month, whenever you're listening or watching to this video. Keep in touch with me, Lamarr Townsend, tarot.com. Follow me on all my social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Vimeo, Patreon. And also, if you want a personal reading, once again, LamarrTownsendTarot.com. I am available for personal readings. My books are not currently full, and I would love to read for you. Get me before I get my books filled. All right, you guys, love and light. Until the next episode.